Hi, everyone, and a very pleasant good evening to you once again. Tonight we're going to take you on a fly fishing and lake trolling trip from Calgary, Alberta, across the Rocky Mountains back into the south-central interior of BC. I know you're all going to enjoy it. Once again, my name is Ted Peck, and a very, very pleasant welcome to Tides and Trails.
Tides and Trails is presented each week at this time by Sportsman Cigarettes. Sportsman, with the tobacco that's too good to filter. Now, here's Ted Peck.
Thank you. First of all, let's show you on our map where the boys went fishing. I'd like to interject at this point that Uncle Stumbly was not present on this particular trip. We were otherwise employed in the city of Calgary. Those of you who met me in person will remember we were at the big North Hill Shopping Center when this Tides and Trails episode was being filmed. Bill Dennett, our cameraman, Roy Forrest, the pilot, and some people from the Hook and Hackle Club in Calgary and from the Calgary Fishing Game left the city of Calgary across the Rocky Mountains through Banff and Lake Louise and so on, went south and west down into the Shuswap country, a bit to the east and to the north of the city of Kamloops in British Columbia. But their original intentions were to fish in the Rocky Mountains themselves, right on the BC-Alberta border, but the lakes at the time were frozen in, so that they made their trip through the Mara Lake, Shuswap Lake, Humamilt Lake district, and came back with some beautiful films of fly fishing and lake trolling as well. Tonight you're going to meet in person, once again, our cameraman, Bill Dennett, and we'd like to welcome him at this time to this end of Tides and Trails.
Nice to be back on the shore again, Ted.
Willie is usually behind the whir box, as you know, and this time he's going to do most of the commentary on the show because, after all, he was with the boys at the time. Bill, if you could first of all discuss how you went on this particular trip and the areas you went to before we show them on film.
Well, Ted, we left on a lake, a dammed lake, just out of a dammed-up lake, I should say, just out of the Calgary area. Flew in through past Banff, Lake Louise, through Rogers Pass, into Mara Lake, where Roy has his base camp set up. He takes guests in, they stay at that particular area. From there, he will fly them into various lakes. For example, in this case, we did go into Humamilt Lake for the rainbow trout.
Okay, well, let's show them. Let's show them all exactly the trip that went on. I wish I could have been on this trip, but you can't be everywhere at once.
So here we are just preparing to leave, Ted. It was very early in the morning. Our weather for this particular trip was excellent. Beautiful weather, lovely and clear all the way through. Roy Forrest is just starting up this fly-in service, which is a boon to those in the Calgary area who wish to go fishing to some of these exotic lakes. I believe he's in the phone book and can be contacted. We're just on the way now through just entering into the Rockies. Still looks very, very cold indeed.
That is Banff, obviously.
Banff, President Mountains. As I say, the weather was beautiful with fabulous scenery. Anyone taking that trip certainly enjoy that part of it. There's Lake Louise, still frozen in.
Obviously. I think your original intention, Bill, was to try that Fortress Lake, wasn't it, where we went in last September with the eastern brook trout?
Yes, that's correct. It was frozen in, too. There's Rogers Pass, just the start of it.
I'd like you to identify the people, Bill. I know that you had a couple of Bobs with you, one from the Hook and Hackle Club and one from the Calgary Fishing Game. And as they appear on the film, let's let everyone know who they are.
Yes, Bob Hobbs was one. He's the president of the Calgary Fishing Game. The other Bob, we'll call him Hackle Bob Nugent, and he was from the Hook and Hackle Club in Calgary. Just arriving now at Mara Lake. There is Bob Nugent, pardon me, that was Bob Hobbs you saw.
I'd like to mention that Bob and his wife Helen do a tremendous job in conservation in the Calgary area for the Calgary Fishing Game, and it's a good organization to belong to if you're anywhere in the southern Alberta district.
You'll see two other lads in the show, Ted. They work for Roy Forrest. Their names George, he's 18, and Robbie's 16, Kelly. They're both from Calgary. The chap you see assisting with the docking of the aircraft is Bill Stapleton. He operates the Buena Vista cabin or resort where Roy Forrest uses as a base camp to take his customers or his guests to stay overnight. And each morning they fly to the various lakes.
How did you find the fishing at the time, Bill? I mean, let's put it this way. There's lots of rainbow trout in most of the interior lakes of BC, but how were they coming to the fly, for instance?
Well, fly fishing wasn't tried out too extensively. There's Bob Nugent. He was the fly fisherman of the pair. He did fairly well in Humamilt Lake, but I don't think it had a fair try. The fishing in Humamilt, we're just leaving for there now, was very, very good.
Did you run into any problems with barometric pressure? I know this affects fly fishing very much in the central interior of BC.
Well, we definitely did. There's a Humamilt Lake there. We did. This particular day, there were continual squalls, or should we say thunder showers. When a thunder shower or squall approached, of course, the barometric pressure would drop, and the activity of fish would just cease immediately.
I remember from years ago the same thing. It forms sort of a skin on the lake's surface when the pressure drops. And the sort of tension on the surface of the lake keeps the fish well down. But if you are a fly fisherman, I found the answer to this is to use a wet line and go right down on the bottom with a nymph-type fly.
Well, I watched that very carefully, being interested in this particular phase. We kept checking the barometric pressure on the instruments of the aircraft. And the minute it dropped, of course, there was no activity whatsoever. There's Hackle Bob getting into his waders, talking it over with Roy Forrest. Bob Hobbs' incidentally, Ted, is a jacket exactly identical to what we wear.
Well, those blaze orange jackets, it's too bad that they show up as white on these films. We all wear them for the same reason, not only because they're warm and waterproof, but if you're ever down in an aircraft anywhere, they can be spotted for miles. And they're very handy between Bill and I on films, and if we get fish, and it still happens to be a few 100 yards or half a mile away, I just wave my arms and you can see it across the lake or up the stream or wherever it happens to be.
You notice Bob is getting ready. He was using spinning gear. Bob Hobbs, whereas Hackle Bob stayed pretty well through the fly fishing. Now here are the Kelly boys, only one boat on the lake, not to be outdone. They were going to get in a little fishing, so they built a raft. We'll show you a little later on in the show. They did just as well at a raft as we did with the boat. This is there again, a beautifully calm day.
I hope Bob Hobbs there is a good swimmer. Wearing waders in boats is something that I don't particularly condone. I have to do it myself sometimes in duck shooting shows and so on, but I presume Bob's a good swimmer. But waders are awful hard to kick off if you have any trouble.
The teachers out had a beautiful, calm day. The water was real glassy.
Sure looks beautiful, Bill. I've never fished Humamilt Lake myself. How would you recommend it as a lake to go into?
Well, I would say it's very, very good, Ted. It's an excellent. We have plenty of fishing activity. I don't know just how large the fish will go in that particular lake. We didn't have the opportunity to fish the entire area. We just fished the lower end or the lower bay. If that is any indication of the rest of the lake, it's an excellent spot.
This looks like a couple of pound trout.
Yes, incidentally, this one's a little dark. The only dark one we got. Pretty close to the spawning
I would
stage.
say it's either just about starting or just about finished. It looks like a female. A couple of pounds.
Unfortunately, fishing with hardware such as this, usually when you hook a fish, they're damaged so badly that you can't release them. That's the only unfortunate part of it. In this case, this fish, if released, possibly would have died. So we kept it. It wasn't that bad.
You try to hand at it yourself, did you?
Yes, sort of somewhat opposed to flailing hardware. However, in this case, I thought I'd just try it out and see what it's like. Another one coming in. They're very nice fish. Incidentally, you lost that one. We were fishing somewhat for the camera also. But the most of them were around pound and a half. Very nice pan size.
Bob enjoying the sportsman here after catching a couple of fish, adding some Pleasure to his leisure. Real good smoke, for the cigarette. You're having one too, Willie.
Oh, yeah. Well, a little bit of a breeze would come up now and then. We'd have a squall go through, as I was mentioning, Ted. And we'd go back to camp. There's no use fishing once the squall would go through. The boy Forrest has discovered a start of a nest here. Now, I'm not sure just what these are, Ted, whether they're loon eggs or Canada goose and honker eggs. I'm not positive.
Did you see any of the parents or of either loon or goose around there?
Yes, there were a pair of Canadian honkers in the area. There were also a pair of loons. So I'll have to leave that to some of our conservation officers, see if they can decide for it. Bob bringing in another very nice fish. They were nice and clean. They put up a good scrap, too, despite having to drag a bit of hardware around. Now, those caught on the fly, Bob Nugent did get a few on the fly, and they bring up a great scrap. Bob dispatched him immediately. Well, he's pretty happy, you know. An excellent fishing trip. We did have a feed of the trout while we were there. They were excellent. And the progress of the raft, they're just about ready to launch it. Nice one coming in.
Doesn't seem to be any breeze at all on the lake in the entire trip here.
Yes, well, we didn't fish, of course, when the weather turned. The squall continued.
There's your purist going at it again.
Hackle Bob, he stayed right with it. He did land a very nice one right from the shore. You'll see a little later. I think we took something like 30 in the 2 days we fished. And every one of them were in excellent condition except for the first one we caught. It was on the dark side.
Trying a little bit of your slow motion photography here, Bill.
Yeah, trying to give you a better idea of just how they do fight. Because you can't help repeating, it's a beautiful spot, a lovely area, inaccessible at the present time by road. There's an old logging road punched part way through, but there's still about a mile to go. The only way in there is by aircraft.
But it will be within a year or so that somebody will establish a camp more than likely on this lake.
That's right. Roy Forrest has great plans for this area, and he's going to build a lodge right on the lake. You ought to take guests in, and they ought to stay right in the area.
And his base will be Calgary, Alberta.
Calgary, Alberta, that is correct. At the present time, he's using an abandoned house that was used years ago by miners right on the lake. And he uses that as a sort of a base camp for cooking. He can feed his guests while they're in the area, going for the day.
Would you say, Bill, these were stocked fish, or do you think they're native to the lake originally?
Well, now, Ted, I can't definitely answer that, but I believe they are native. I inquired, and no one had any record of this particular lake being stocked. Now, they could have been stocked, but as far as I know...
Well, maybe it could stand an awful lot of pressure fishing to increase the size of the fish. Maybe there's too many fish of the small size in the lake.
Possibly so. Bob just let that one go, a small one. Meanwhile, the boy's Huckleberry Finn act.
The lad with the fly rod certainly looks like he knows what he's doing with it, too. He's a confident
fisherman. Certainly is. That was George. He's 18 years old.
Well, the fish get bigger, and the second half of tonight's Tides and Trails episode, and also much more scenery and a continuation of the trip taken by Roy Forrest and the two Bobs and Willie after, of course, and his trip with Roy Forrest and the Hook and Hackle Club, and, of course, the Calgary fishing game as well. Lots of trout here, too, Billy.
Yes, we're into trout action again. George Kelly has a nice one on, caught on the fly. He really had some fun with it. I can't repeat it. You watch the way he handles that fly rod. Truly an expert.
Looks like Bob Nugent knows what he's doing, too.
Yes, he does very well. Unfortunately, with just the one boat available, Bob spent quite a bit of time on the shoreline. He did manage to pick one up right from the shore. He went out later on the raft and in the boat and did exceptionally well. His younger brother, Robbie. Meanwhile, Bob Nugent brings in another nice one. I'm sure that anyone getting into this lake would enjoy it very, very much. The scenery, the tranquility, and also the excellent fishing.
Well, it certainly looks like it to me, Bill.
The fact that we just fished this small bay that's down the one end of the lake. The rest of the lake, at the point of repeating, is any indication of what the lake has to offer. I would say there's some excellent fishing to be had for many years in this area.
Well, judging by the size of the trout taken here, if you took a few more of them out of the lake, you're going to increase the general overall size. It looks like they're heavily competing for food. Did you find much natural feed in the lake, freshwater shrimp, or any leeches or that sort of thing?
I didn't observe too closely, Ted, in that respect. Another thing we didn't do, which I should have done, I should have checked the stomach content of the fish. I didn't do that. It was Roy Forrest taking an hour's catch away from Bob.
Just a reminder to the people that the BC Fish and Game Branch limit is quite generous. You're allowed 12 trout per day, and you're allowed 2 of these over 20 inches in length. And there's many lakes that you can catch trout over 20 inches in length, but no one would reasonably want any more than 2 of them in any one day, because after all, that's just being a fish hog, not a sportsman, and not a conservationist. I see you got a little towing job going.
This time we're towing Hackle Bob and George Kelly out onto the lake. Bob is going to try a little fly casting from the raft. Incidentally, Hackle Bob does all his own tie flying. I believe he's very, very active.
Tie flying? Fly tie.
Fly tying, pardon me,
It's
fly
a
tying.
tongue twister.
Real tongue twister. I believe he's very active with some of the junior sportsmen, teaching them the art of tying flies.
Yes, he was well displayed, shall I say, in the Calgary Fish and Game and Hook and Hackle Club sportsman show that was on a couple of months ago in Calgary.
Rather amusing, Bob Nugent sort of gave up with the, Bob Hobbs rather gave up with the landing net that time. He figured the easiest way was to bring him over the side of the boat.
Well, if you're using a multiple hook on a spoon and you use a landing net, you're going to have at least 5 minutes job untangling the hook from the net, usually.
Roy Force just leaving for the base camp for supplies.
Certainly looks like a good part of the world to go fishing, Bill.
Oh, it's beautiful. It's really beautiful. I don't doubt what Roy's Force is going to be pretty busy taking guests into this area. Hackle Bob is finally tied into one.
Looks like he's changed over to a spinning rod.
Change over to the spinning rod. He doesn't seem to be going too well for the flies at that particular time of day. However, they're certainly active to hardware. We were spin casting and did a bit of trolling.
Did you see any small minnows in the lake that you think the fish might naturally feed on?
I didn't notice any, Ted. No, I didn't.
Has it got any, this particular lake, has it got any access to any other lake or river system?
Yes, at the far end, it would be the northeast end of the lake. There is an outlet that flows through. I believe it eventually flows through right into the Shuswap.
Well, if there is a connection through to the Shuswap, the trout would naturally eat some minnows because they'd be traveling back and forth through the creek. That's why your hardware, as you call it, would be successful.
Yes, it was. Very successful. There's Hackle Bob back on shore. He finally did take a very nice one on the fly, as you see here. Let's say about 1.5 pounds. Very nice fish indeed. He was very, very happy to pick that one up in the fly right from the shoreline.
Very nice trout.
Display of some of the catch. Very nice fish. Very nice condition. I only wish you could have spent more time and explored the upper reaches of the lake. But I'm sure there must be some big ones there. We got them up to 2 1/4 pounds there.
Oh, I imagine there's the odd 5 and 6 pounder in the lake. All right. Keep it interesting.
Well, they were both Bobs were very, very happy over this trip. They had plenty of action. I did take the liberty, Ted, to show Bob Hobbs your excellent method of cleaning fish. Meanwhile,
Well, I don't claim any originality to this method of cleaning fish, Bill. It's just, I learned it from an Indian in northern B.C., about 15, 16 years ago, when you had to clean as many as 50, 60, or 100 trout a day. And you want to give the trout away eventually or take it home with you. It still leaves the head on it, and it's a very fast and efficient method. Everything comes out with one swipe.
well, I refer to it as your method because you're the one that showed me how it was done, Ted, originally, and I'm sure many of our viewers since then, as it is an excellent method of cleaning fish. Up and early again, once again the next morning, we're going to try trolling for lake trout. This particular case, Bill Stapleton, who has the boat, took off earlier ahead of us, went into the area. We flew in.
Shuswap Lake now, is it?
Shuswap, the Upper Ansty, Shuswap Lake.
Nice little deer.
We called in to a fishing guide in the area on the Ansty Arm, Percy Wilson. When we got to arrive at his place, the deer was poaching his salt lick that he uses for his horses. He's a guide in his own right, a fishing guide, also a big game guide. He keeps horses there. And there are plenty of deer in the area. As a matter of fact, there are 7 or 8 of them been hanging around his area all winter. Without trolling this time with wire line, went right to the bottom after one of the big ones.
Well, we've showed many methods of fishing for lake trout on the show, and we're going to show some more in the near future. I'll explain that after these films are over when we go into northern Saskatchewan. But it's one of the most common game fish all over northern North America is the great lake trout or lake char, whichever you'd like to call it. It's the same fish and very common. Not as good a fighter as the rainbow or cutthroat or any true trout, but certainly a very good eating fish and lovely smoked.
Yes, the lake trout fishing wasn't too successful. Well, there's Percy Wilson there setting out his line. Roy Forrest also tried a hand at it. It was another beautiful day. It is beautiful, the Shuswap. Lovely country.
Well, I don't know. I forget the official figure, but I know there's so many thousand square miles of, or at least not square miles, but lineal miles of coastline on Shuswap Lake. That this is fished extensively from the southern end, and you could spend a whole summer on Shuswap Lake and never visit the same bay twice.
Bill Stapleton was the only lucky Nimrod to land the one and only lake trout we did get. I'd say about 5.5, 6 pounds. Very nice fish in excellent condition.
They do go up to, what, about 30, 35 pounds in the lake?
Oh, yes, they have been taken, I believe, as a matter of fact, Percy Wilson had taken up to 38 pounds. Raising the bay right in his area.
I'll never forget that lake trout show we did when we threw them back in the lake at Cunningham Lake, casting with a spinning rod.
And the fishing trip over, we're on the way back through that beautiful scenery once again, through the Rockies, past Lake Louise, and back into his base of operations, just out of Calgary. Roy now is removing the lake trout from the pontoon of the
This
aircraft.
is one of your tricks. I know, being a flyer yourself, you've stowed many a fish through the bungs and the floats, haven't you?
That's a great way to transport them, Dad. And
Keeps them cool, too.
he doesn't mess up your aircraft, and as you say, keeps them nice and cool. And he's handing the fish now to little John Forrest, Roy's 9-year-old son. He's very proud. He'd certainly like to have been able to caught that one himself.
Well, I hope he grows up to be a real true sportsman and a conservationist.
Well, he's an ardent viewer of ties and trails. He never misses it. So let's hope he watches this one. And the end of a very, very successful and very pleasant trip.
Well, I wish I could have been with you, Bill, but as I say, I can't be everywhere at once. In this particular, when you were up in there, I was in Calgary itself at the big shopping center opening. I think we met at least 10,000 of you personally. Or you still got one going there, Billy?
I'm sure you would have enjoyed it, Ted.
Well, many thanks for being on this end of the show for a change, Bill.
It's indeed a pleasure, Ted.
And remember, our contest a couple of weeks to go yet on it. A very simple question. Who is Ties and Trails photographer? We've given you a whole show full of answers and put each individual entry in an envelope, mark it motor contest or engine contest, and send them to the television station that you are now viewing. Next week, we're going to take you into northern Saskatchewan, up in the Lac La Ronge district. We're going to give you a wonderful show on fly fishing for walleyed pike or pickerel, whichever you'd like to call them. We certainly enjoyed that particular trip. I know that you're going to be along with us. We went out with people from the CKBI television station and the Saskatchewan Fish and Game League, Prince Albert Division. So remember our creed again, our true sportsmanship, conservation. Let's keep the heritage that you see on this show every week for our children and our grandchildren as well. Be a true sportsman and smoke sportsman cigarettes. And once again, Ted Peck wishing you all the best, and tight lines, straight shooting.
Sportsman Cigarettes, with the tobacco that's too good to filter, has brought you Ties and Trails. Join Ted Peck next week at the same time. Guides and Trails was produced for Sportsman Cigarettes by CHAN-TV, Vancouver.